Yes, thank you all. Very good evening to all of you, and very good morning to the participant who are joined from USA. So, since I'll be talking around 10 minutes because I'll be talking about the definitions, concept, and type of open access. Why we have took this topic? As of course, we are going celebrating the National Library Week, but it is also our responsibility being a librarian to first we need to understand the importance of open access, and then we need to communicate among the faculty community. That is what we call open science communication also. If you see I see that there are very proactive librarians like Dr. Sri Ram and others. They are very active on Twitter and keep interacting with very professional. There are a lot of information every day on these various platforms. So it is up to us how we librarian collect those information and put on our library website and communicate to our academic community. What the main objective about this session is to talk about open access movement, scholarly communication, concept, types, and open access resources. So let me first start with the scholarly communication. So as we know, scholarly communication is the process used by the scholars to share the result of their research work, to basically to whatever research work they are doing, they are sharing on this process meet, and then it is being shared by journals, professional magazines, conference papers. So there are basically two communication models. One is traditional model, another one is open access model. Traditional one, I think we all are aware. Open access model, only the cost is publishing cost is paid by the author. In that case, copyrights are also with the author. So this is the model of scholarly publishing. If you see, scientists is submitting manuscript to the journals, and it goes to the editor via reviewers, and then it goes to the community when it get accepted and published. But you see the another model here, scientists submit the manuscript. First he submit to preprint servers, get the feedback, revise the manuscript, then submit the journal manuscript to the journal. So this this preprint, because what is the advantage if you submit on the preprint servers? As we know, no library can subscribe all the content. So that case, whatever we are not able to subscribe, we are likely to get that manuscript, that raw version of the published paper on the preprint servers. So now coming to the academic publishing. So as we know, academic publishing is the subfield of publishing which distributed academic research and scholarships. And this process of academic publishing can be divided into the three steps: production, distribution, and consumption. And now coming back to the open access. So as Professor Rao has mentioned that it was proposed by the Budapest Open Access Initiatives in 2002. So the definition says the free availability on the public internet, permitting any user to read, download, copy, distribute, print, search, or link to full text of these articles, crawl them for indexing, pass them as data to software, or use them for any other lawful purpose without financial, legal, or technical barrier other than those sprayable from gaining access of internet itself. This is the last one, very important. So basically we need to understand that open access, they have been made available on the public domain legally, okay, by the generating agencies. So this open access refers to the free, unrestricted online access to research output. Open access content is open to all with no access fee. Open access is more than free access. When people think about open access, they immediately relate it with the free access. Providing reuse rights is the another important asset of open access. Open access in its purest form is digital, online, free of charge, and free of most copyright and licensing restrictions. So my colleague, like one of the speaker, Dr. Sriram, will be also talking about this Creative Commons in continuation with his talk. And then it is very important to know this open access, which is now considered as an alternative for academic publishing. It is a new trend, and now most of the faculty members, they would like to have publish their articles on open access platform. And I think everybody knows, if you publish our manuscript on open access platform, it is likely to attract more citation, and we author get more citation, his H-index will go high, his or her. And once H-index goes high, right? Then institute H index will also go high. So these are the various types of open access model. We need to understand, being a librarian, and we need to, tell our scholars and faculty members. First one is gold open access. There is no subscription fee, and author pay the article processing charges. This one. Then green open access, known also as the self archiving. Author deposit pre or post print to an open access repositories and pay no fee, but it's called as like delayed open access. Then there is a hybrid open access, which is a subscription model in which some of the articles are open access. You will see now hybrid journals also. And let me tell you now, most of the big publishers, now they also have a number of, open access journals like PLOS. PLOS, all the journals, they are an open access model. But you talk about like Wiley or elsewhere, they have, a few number of journals, which are open access model. Then there is a bronze open access. It is called delayed open access, platinum open access, free to the authors and free to the readers. Then there is a, open access archiving models. So this is also, by the, but it is the choice of the researchers where, they want to publish. And of course, they need to see the Sherpa Romeo guidelines, for the disseminating of that particular article. Now, why it is necessary to talk about predatory publishing? Because these predatory publishers, they have tried to exploit this open access model, and we know the Jeffrey Bell, who was an American librarian, and he has given this definition. He says predatory publishers publish counterfeit journals to exploit the open access model in which the author pays. These predatory publishers are dishonest. Again, I'll repeat, these predatory publishers are dishonest and lack transparency. They aim to dupe researchers, especially those inexperienced in scholarly communication. Okay, so here it's trying to say the young buddy scholars who are just new in this thing. So there are many names to predatory publishing, like fake publishing, dark side, deceptive, fake journals, same journals. So being a librarian, we need to tell our scholars what are these predatory publishing, what is predatory journals, and how they need to get rid about this. Then I like to give an example. ISER Bhopal, as we know, all the CFTI, all the academic, most of the academic institutions, they have an institutional repository, but they are an intranet. But we took one initiative that all our open access publications, embargo free publications, we put on our separate repository, and this is now available on global IP. So we are hoping this will attract more, citations for our faculty members. Open access resources, I think Labiba is going to talk on that. So I'll skip that part. And DOAJ, I think every day, every day these numbers are changing. Right now, 1711 journals are there, and you see carefully, more than 12,000 journals, they are without APC. So this is very, very important. So this I was studying, on this. The open access trend, how they are getting published. I'll not go much in detail, but this is the trend. You can see about the gold open access. This in the DOAJ journals, non-DOAJ journals, only green open access journals. So this is the trend. I am a big fan of preprint servers. Being a librarian, we should tell, our community that if you are not able to get any articles, they should search on preprint servers and all. Instead of going to pirated sites, they should, search those manuscripts on preprint servers. Just a few days back, practical guide to the preprint has also been released. So I think full text you can see on this site. UKB and NWR, you can also ask me. I'll be happy to provide. This is also a very important one. Now coming to the last part of my presentation, these best practices in promoting open access journal. Because being a librarian, we need to promote genuine open access journals. So as we know, Web of Science has around 21,000 journals indexed. Every time we pick up a journal, we need to check with the site, think, check, submit, and make sure that it is not a predatory journals. DOAJ already talked about that. Now, apart from this, being a librarian, when we talk about open access journals, we know that there is a APC, article processing charges. So being a librarian, we can help faculty members to get waived off these article processing charges. In that case, librarian need to write a publishers with all the justification, and especially the society publishers. they are very genuine and they, feel happy to, web up such, APC. I think now time has come also, libraries or institute need to give, support faculty members for APC charges. And then also being a librarian, we need to, spread more aware about embargo period. We know now, there is a financial crunch due to COVID, and then it is our duty, of course, to promote open education resources. Same time, whatever, publications which have a less embargo period, we may think of dropping those, for example, Sal Press, and there are many other publishers where embargo period is very less. And after embargo period, this, publication contents become open access. And also, it is also necessary, being a librarian, to approaches to sensitize researcher on predatory journals. So that also, like, Web of Science is there, Scopus having 22,800, UGC care list, DOAJ, I think people have some confusions, but let me tell you, all the journals are highly peer reviewed, and whatever journals is indexed in DOAJ, you may consider they all are indexed by either Scopus or Web of Science. And one more thing, if any researcher is going to publish or publisher claim they are indexed by DOAJ, it is the duty of the librarian or researcher to make sure whether that is really indexed by the DOAJ. So, like I was talking about Twitter, so like if you like to get associated with open access movement, because I personally feel Twitter is a very good academic platform. So these are the sites where you can get associated with this open access movement. Now coming to the last slide of my presentation, that what are the role of the libraries and librarians. So I think I discussed during my presentation that open access is a very important tool. I think many of the faculty members are aware, but the new research scholars, and then we need to take orientation programs, need to tell about the open access models, and then APC charges, open educational resources, and then Creative Commons. So these are the duty of the librarians to tell our research community. So with these words, once again I thank you for giving me this opportunity. And now with these words, I request Professor Rao to give his talk on trends of open access. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Sandeep. Brief but very important issues you have raised, and you gave me the base for talking on this topic. I need not go for the background, but one or two things I would like to say. For example, UN says a sustainable development goal, 17 goals, and access to the knowledge equally, that is one of the reason, that is one of the cause which helps in the sustainable development goals. So therefore, it is linked with sustainable development goals also. And as you said, we are talking about Budapest 2001 and 2002. Budapest was started. The declaration was on 2001 December 1 and 2, 1st and 2nd of December. Then slowly we have gone to Berlin Declaration, and the Berlin Declaration, what it simply says that the disseminating the knowledge is the only half complete of the information in not made widely and readily available to society. Basically, what they want is that everything, the knowledge must be accessible, and that is also, they say it's a human right to have the knowledge, and that is how it started in 2001. Then it went into the Budapest, then it went into the Berlin. Then slowly what happened, open access has been discussed at every point of place. And as you already raised some of the issues, I may be able to say some of the things, like we were talking, I was just talking about the open access concept was started in the year 2001, but slowly it has helped us to think of open access, as I was talking earlier, books, courseware, software, open repositories, right, and all those things. And when we are talking about the journals, there were in DOAJ, there were 17,000 journals are there, out of which 12,000 journals are, they don't charge any article processing charges. That is one of the things. Then earlier there were predatory journals were also there. What they have done is they checked, and now they include the Directorate of Open Access Journals only when the journal is published for last 4 or 5 years. And we know the predatory journals, they charge money. I wanted to give an example of OMIC in Hyderabad. They were charging, they were publishing 3,200 journals, and all were predatory. And in the US, they penalized them with $50 million. Of course, the companies from India, I don't think they will pay. And then as far as the article processing charges are concerned, it's a huge money is being charged. If I quote, for example, American Chemical Society charges anywhere between $5,000 for the hybrid journals, because Dr. Pathak has already told what is hybrid. Then if you take into Cambridge University Press, they charge anywhere 6,000 to 4,500 as APC, and Nature they charge anywhere between 1,100 to 5,200. Imagine when say $5,000, it is almost like a 3,50,000. It may be salary of a teacher of 3 months or 4 months. It is not possible for us to pay, but still we have to run the show. That is where the open access comes. And as I was talking about earlier, we were talking about repositories. Now open repositories have come, and the subsequent development, as Dr. Pathak has raised, predatory journals, now everybody is able to find out, and we are getting lists from time to time. As Pathak has said, the Ball's list he was threatened, and ultimately a new list has come. And we also know the Sci-Hub, which has come up. This is the development of because of the open access. Sci-Hub, now we all know there is a case filed in the High Court of the Delhi High Court, and we all get the lot of information, latest articles from Sci-Hub, and we also know that there is publishers are trying to block it. And Sci-Hub, today URL is different. Maybe after 2 days you may find a different URL. With the old URL, you may not be able to find the access. This is one area where a lot of related changes have come. And today what we are able to see, the first subscription journal, then when open access came, the publishers opposed it. Then slowly when there was a demand, we have gone for what you call hybrid journals, where hybrid journals we are able to find both subscription and open access journals articles are published. And this is one of the latest development where publishers have agreed for taking the APC. And then slowly we are able to find that from there open access to hybrid journal. Then, as I was talking about open access, from there we have gone to read and publish. Read and publish, it is also known as a transformative open access agreements. What is this? Read and publish, you subscribe and pay, somewhere it has given 3 to 4% extra, then you will be allowed to publish in their journals. For example, Royal Society, what it says is you go for this agreement, and you can publish any number of articles in a particular journal. But in some of the agreements, what they say is you can publish the articles only to a limited extent. So an institution, the users or scientists from the institution can publish the articles if you are having an agreement of read and publish. That is what I was just talking about, the transformative. There are so many countries, I think more than 100 countries, they have joined together, and they are following this. Like, for example, Canadian Research Knowledge Network, where they get 25% for publishing the research articles. Similarly, Czech Public, they have Taylor and Francis and Routledge, they have made an agreement where they pay no cost for the hybrid journals to publish the articles. So that is how the next development from open subscription to hybrid to open access to read and publish. But at the same time, when we are going for open access, many people we are not in a position to pay so much of money. So there was another development, because as I was talking about $5,000, people will not be able to pay. So then what happened, from open access, it has gone to guided open access. what is this guided open access? If you agree with the publisher, if it is a 5,000, there may be a journal which is where they charge APC $2,000. So if you say that we are ready to pay lower money, then they will, if it is not acceptable in the first one, they will agree for the second one in one of the journals. That means you pay lesser and they guide you where to publish, how much to pay. This is what they call guided open access. And in this guided open access, what the publishers say, we need not review, we need not evaluate the article repeatedly, because first time if it is rejected, second time again you will apply. Instead of that, you say if it is not acceptable in the prime journal, you accept for the secondary journal, which is having comparatively less impact factor. So that is how the guided open access has come. And this is guided open access where, for example, there was one case where 9,500 pounds are charged. And if you go for the guided open access, you may get an opportunity to publish in one of the journal which charges only 2,200 pounds. So therefore, automatically from 9,500 you are coming down to 2,200. And second, unfortunately, there is a claim from everywhere that the publishers are making money, but publishers justify saying that the money is we are charging just for evaluation, editing, and editorial team. We spend a lot of money. That is what they say. But earlier, what was there, now the technology is helping them to publish without any problem. Now there is raw printing. It's only online. Only internet is being used. But still, they are increasing the prices. Earlier, when we calculated, it was 8 to 10% increase was there every year. And so therefore, open access has become much more essential. And subsequently, after this guided open access, there is also another development, what is known as a Plan S. S stands for coalitions. And last S is out of coalitions, S is taken as a Plan S. And this is 12 European countries have joined. And they wanted open repositories. And the copyright also should be held with the owners, or authors, or scientists. That is what they wanted. And it was supposed to start from January 2021. If I'm not wrong, till March, they were struggling for some of the problems. And ultimately, I don't know what is the present status. Slowly, it must be there. And in the meanwhile, I am sure all of you are aware, there were a number of countries like Germany, Netherlands, etc. They stopped the subscription because they were not in a position to pay so much money. And in that context, in Germany, the publishers have given for 1 year free access, saying that until we make an agreement. And then agreements were made because of the read and publish under that agreement, where they were paying 3 to 4% extra, and the authors were allowed to publish. That was the trend. And there were some of agreements which details are not known. Some of the agreements with one of the South American company and South American institute, and also 1 or 2 African institutions also. And that is how what the publishers are slowly trying to accept the demands, but we all know they twist the condition. So therefore, we are able to find, and most important that we are able to see is this plan. Yes, we wanted to also think about it in India, but ultimately, the government of India and the scientific advisor to the Prime Minister did not accept, and they wanted to have something different, like one nation, one subscription. And one nation, one subscription is, I wanted to give a couple of examples which were there in India. We purchased 2 things. One is South Asia Archives, and second is the World eBook Library, Millennium of Greatest Thinkers. But unfortunately, nobody was using them. One is because of the lack of publicity, and second is they are not mainstream journals. And today, the open one nation, one subscription, if the government of India purchases or pays the subscription for a particular journal, anybody can access in the country. But what is happening when we look into the examples of Egypt and some of the African countries, what they say is they identified few institutions. And this one nation, one subscription is only for those few institutions it is accessible. But in India, unfortunately or fortunately, we have so many institutions. So therefore, it is not possible for us. I'm not sure, but I think it may not be possible because we have to pay so much money and we are not in a position to pay through the consortia also. Earlier, university libraries were getting the journals, but now the government of India stopped them because of the lack of funds. And I don't know what is going to happen in future. But this one nation, one subscription is being promoted by government of India. And when it comes, realization comes, we have to see. And we are also able to see when you talk about the repositories, we are able to see NDLI has come into existence where it is trying to link different repositories, institutional repositories in the country, where this was developed in the model as a American Public Library of America, Digital Public Library of America. The same style it has been developed, and the developments, future developments is one of the most important thing which I was trying to suggest is everybody we are looking into Scopus indexed, then Science Citation Indexed, right? Actually, Science Citation Index, the journal, if it is included in that, it is much more expensive. It is something like a $9,000 they charge for APC. And I think that is the biggest money that is collected as an APC. $9,000 is high, which is highest. So I think probably in this country, one of the best solution is we have so many premier institutions, premier research centers. If every research center starts its own journal, one or two journals, I think probably they can make money and also they can publish Indian literature at free of cost. That is the possibility. And with this, there are the changes that are taking place are at faster rate, and the different models have been accepted. And as our friend has said, one of the most important development is the preprints. Earlier we were talking about reprints. Now no more reprints. It's only all preprints. And with these preprints, we are in a position to get the access to the latest information through the preprints. There are so many websites are there, depending upon the subject. And our library friends, they have to see how best we will be able to promote the preprints. And only thing, the preprint is free. Once it is published, it comes under the copyright. So the changes, most likely the changes what we are able to examine is, could be only 3 to 5% of changes that are coming in from an article published in the preprints, and once it is published in the journal, it's just 3 to 5%. So therefore, the 95% of the information that is put in the article in the preprints is acceptable to everybody. So looking into that, probably we have to also promote not only open access, but also we have to promote the preprints also. And that is how we have to see how many, there are new different models also that, as I was talking about transformation model, and newer models are coming in different countries. And one of the most important model that they were suggesting is that why not the institution join together and promote. Why one institution can promote few journal articles, and another institution can promote few more articles, so that everything becomes the articles that are coming from India are free of cost. This is what happened in Germany also. They said all the publications that are from Germany, they have to be open access. They must be allowed to be accessed by everybody in German country, not in Germany, not outside. They don't make an agreement. They made an agreement that anything published from Germany, they must be freely accessible to everybody in the country. And that is how the things everywhere, there are different models are there. And we have to examine what models are there, how we best will be able to do. And one more important thing is all the associations should join together and then prepare certain models and submit to the government. Maybe the Indian government will be able to look into the models. And unfortunately, lastly, I would like to say we have so many consortia. We don't know how much is being paid by one particular CSR consortia. We don't know how much is being paid by the UGC consortia. We don't know how much NIT consortia. We are different consortia and different prices. Everybody was talking about consortia of consortia. Unfortunately, that is not taking place. And we have a different problems in our country. compared to other countries. I think, but we have to come together, unify together, and then try to how best we'll be able to go for the promotion of the open access, and librarians have a greater role in promoting the open access. This is what I just want to say. Thank you very much. Now I request Dr. Labiba to speak.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao. I'm trying to present right now. Okay. Sorry. Can anybody see my presentation?
Not yet, ma'am.
Not yet. Okay. Greeting from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. I am Labiba Zain from UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta. It is an honor for me to be one of the speakers in this webinar and share the forum with Professor Rao, Dr. Pata, Dr. Siram, and Dr. Gary Brutnet, and also Dr. Pandey. I will begin my presentation with the shifting paradigm of the library. Talking about library is not talking about technical issues anymore, but we are talking about the conceptual issues relating to the impact of the library to society. It is not only about searching, but also information literacy that is very essential in the tsunami era right now. It is not only paper, but also paperless platform. The library has been shifted from book to knowledge, from facilities to how we use our intangible asset creatively into solve our limitation, from invisible to visible, from the exclusive service into the inclusive one, from accessories into to a solution, from the oral procedure into the written one, and from individual movement into networking and sharing resources, and from the ownership into access. Before I talk about open resources in Indonesia, I will say that the library business is about documenting, managing, disseminating information, knowledge that is accessible to society. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that everyone has the right to education. The 2003 was submit on the Information Society Declaration of Principle committing to a build people-centered, inclusive and development-oriented information society where everyone can create, access, utilize, and share information and knowledge. So the intellectual freedom means that the information should be accessible for all. And then this will break information divide and all people have access to free resources. Now, what is open educational resources? UNESCO 2012 state that open educational resources is any type of educational material that are in the public domain or introduced with an open license. Anyone can legally and freely copy, use, adapt, and reshare those material. The type of material include textbook, curricula, syllabi, lecture, note, assignment, test, project, audio, video, and animation. Now I'm going to talk about the background of open resources in Indonesia. It starts with the existence of open university that needed online learning and required online resources. It is accessible information for all for free. Because we have limited access to journal and academic resources for some group of people or even for college. We have limited budget for collection development, primarily for scientific journal subscription. In 2012, policy issued by Directorate General of Higher Education, a division in Ministry of Education and Culture, to enforce lecturer who aspire for promotion to provide the address of his or her scholarly work on the website through online journal, institutional repository, Garuda, or another portal. In 2012, Directorate General of Higher Education implemented another policy which required the student at undergraduate and graduate level to publish their scholarly work as a requirement for their convocation. So undergraduate student has to publish their research on a local journal. Master degree student has to publish their research on national journal, and PhD degree has to submit their research to international journal. So this is how Indonesian government develop open access resource. It is developed by Indonesian government, which it is Ministry of Research and Higher Education, Ministry of Religious Affairs, especially for university and institution under Ministry of Religious Affairs, we call it MORA, and also built by Indonesian universities. So we talk open access portal. In Indonesia, we have IPI, the Indonesian Publication Index Database, designed for browsing, indexing, abstracting, monitoring, and improving the standard of scholarly publication in Indonesia. The content are very important to be made visible globally so that Indonesian academic and researcher can be identified her expertise, areas of possible collaboration, stimulate use, and citation. In PTKIN or university, we have MORAREF, which is Ministry of Religious Affairs reference in academic portal under the initiative of Ministry of Religious Affairs of Indonesia, run by Association of Journal, University Publisher, and Research Center under the Administration of Higher Education Division in the ministry. The goal is to enhance, facilitate digitalization and indexation of academic journal published by the institution under the coordination of the Ministry of Religious Affairs of Indonesia. The scope is the journal focuses not only on Islamic studies or religious studies, but also on
Ma'am,
the
sorry
other
to
science.
say, slide is moving, not moving.
Oh, the slide of not moving. Okay. Right now?
No, ma'am.
Oh, no. Okay. So, okay.
Okay, now you continue, madam, because of the time limitation, right? You continue, whatever it is. Now, already you have gone through half of the program, half of the lecture.
Okay. Okay, in this case, I will try to take example here from university, from Universitas Indonesia, Gajah Mada University, Institut Teknologi Bandung, UIN Sunan Kalijaga Yogyakarta, and Universitas Siakuala. The goal is to collect all the type document in one portal. Type of document, article, paper, course assignment, teaching material, presentation, video, picture, bachelor thesis, and also the journal. So here, actually, I give you example on the website containing repository and also open educational resources. Okay, so I bet you cannot see it. So for the case of UIN Sunan Kalijaga Library, my institution, the rector policy said that every faculty must submit all their researchers to the library. every faculty staff that want to get promoted to the higher ranks must have the letter from the library stated that they have already submit her or his research to the library. So this is actually, I saw the folder actually. And we also have the portal for Indonesian repositories called onesearch.id. Maybe you can try to find onesearch.id. It is built by the National Library of Indonesia, consists of institutional repositories from the various area of Indonesia, school libraries consisting of school libraries, academic library, special libraries, and public libraries. Some of them can be accessed freely, but some of them only have function as catalog, depend on each institutional policy. So here, actually, I show you onesearch.id. You can actually open it by yourself. The address in onesearch.id. The general characteristic of Indonesian open access is university. University has their own repository, but mostly not fully open for public. Certain type of documents are restricted for internal use only. For the teaching material, proceeding is open for their internal use. They use simple design, as mentioned in UNESCO, and also the number of resources is limited, but still is in going process. It's growing right now. Open access developed by the government is more open compared to the repository developed by universities. So general characteristic of Indonesian open educational resource, some academic library have special portal of open educational resource, such as Open University and University of Siah Kuala in Aceh. Some universities use the term e-learning. Some universities put open educational resources on their repositories. Type of access is full open access. Some of them use semi-open access, and some of them use the restricted one. Thank you. That's all my presentation. Maybe we can go. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much, Professor Rao.
Thank you, Ravivaji. Nice of you. Maybe in the question time, some discussion may come. The status of open education resources in India.
Indonesia.
And also all over the world.
In Indonesia, okay.
No, you spoke on Indonesia. Somebody may comment on OER in India and elsewhere also.
Okay,
what are
thank
the
you.
attempts that have been taken place?
Sorry.
That's fine.
Sorry about the presentation.
No, that's right.
Because,
Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
it's okay.
Thank you.
It happens, Now I request Professor Gary to make a presentation, please.
Yeah, sir, actually, Professor Gary has some network issues. So meantime, we are going to try to connect him. Meantime, I think you may invite Dr. Sriram to start his presentation.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody knows Dr. Sriram, who worked in JP, then he worked in Thapar. Now he joined as a university librarian at Sikkim University. And everybody knows he is a tech savvy. He does a lot of things using the technology, and one of the few who are using the technology in this country in libraries. And he'll be talking to us on Creative Commons. I request Dr. Sriram to speak.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Respected Professor Rao, Dr. Pathak, and Leviva, and all the dignitaries available here, and all the participants. So thank you for your kind words, sir, and giving me an opportunity to interact on a very important aspect, that is how we are going to use some kind of online content in a legal way. So this is, we are going to use resources which is going to be very important while creating a digital content. So I'm going to share one of my presentation which related to Creative Commons. So I'm sure that this content is visible to you. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Sriram.
It's visible?
No, not
It's
yet.
visible.
No, no,
It's
not yet.
visible on some another screen. Yeah, now it's
Yes, yes, right.
Okay. So it is taking time to. So Creative Commons is one of the legal opportunity provided to us to use our digital content which is available over internet in a way that it make us to provide equal opportunity for each one of us so that we can retain it, reuse it, revise it, remix it, and redistribute it in the form of different digital content, maybe in the form of educational resources, maybe in the form of research articles, research papers, books, book chapters, all the documents, videos we are creating using different online platform and sharing among our peers for the purpose of academic or research activity. So nowadays, this digital content are increasingly prevalent in today's environment, and everywhere we find the digital documents available in the form of different product, maybe research paper, videos, lectures, blogs, website, book chapters. All these things are now available on the website, on the internet, and we very often use these content to share among our peers so that they can also view it, modify it, reuse it, and share among other people so that it will become widely available to a global scenario. And at the same time, we generally find questions where we try to understand that how we are going to protect our works as well as others' work in a responsible attribution and usage so that it does not create a legality at later stage of its life cycle. So maybe the documents which are available in different format, they are associated with some kind of rights, whether generally we call it a copyright. And whatever document today we find in the internet, when it got published, either text or video or audio, whatever format it may be, it automatically covered under a rule of copyright. So we have to understand that whatever material we are going to use for our purpose, are they are protected, or they are freely available or protected under the Copyright Act. And sometimes it is very difficult for us to understand whether the material is covered under copyright, whether we can use for our academic purpose, what extent we can use for our academic purposes or research purposes. So all these things are generally governed by the copyright laws of the respective countries, and we have to be very careful about using those contents, especially when it comes to the commercialization activity. For example, if you are a video content creator, now a lot of people are creating small videos and uploading it on the social media platform, and they are putting some photos, they are putting some songs, they are putting some images. So we have to understand that whether we are having a legal rights to use those contents in our productive activity, and if any legality associated with that object is not going to hamper our credentials or our image in future. So as a librarian, we have to understood those legalities, and we should familiarize our faculty, researchers, and students about what kind of open educational resources or open materials which are available on the website can be governed by certain rules, and that rule is generally we call it a common Creative Commons, which help us to avoid any kind of violation of creators' right. So generally, I'm just highlighting one aspect of open education resources, like Dr. Leviba was talking about. So we generally, it is considered as the open education resources are which facilitate 5R. That is, we can retain it, reuse it, revise it, remix it, and again redistribute it for other to use it. So all these things we generally take some text, we generally take some images, we generally take some contents from one places, or we mix up it, and then we produce as a one another product, and then we started using those content for our academic or research activity. So all these things, we have, before using any content, we must understood that whatever content we are taking from the internet or we're taking from any other aspect, are we are legally authorized to use or not. For that, I wanted to share one email which I received for one of the conference when I was organizing in JUIT Solan. So I used one image of Shimla train, where the snow-covered train was picture was there, and we put into our brochure. Suddenly, I got an email from one of the photograph owner of that picture, saying that, Mr. Sriram, you are using my picture of Bodog without my permission on this social media platform. So take it down immediately, or I will send you a network to you or network a legal notice. So this was very, very new scenario for me. At that time, I was actually not familiar with the permission, licensing, Creative Commons. All these things was very, very new. I started at that time. I was not aware. So this scenario was very astonishing for me, and it was very new to me. Then I discussed with my colleagues, and then immediately I send an email saying that I have put of this image, of your image, and I am sorry about it. I was not aware about it. So likewise, this is one of the very, very major problem we may face at later stage when we are going to use any image, any post, any text without proper citation or without proper acknowledgement of using online content. So while creating material, we generally, there is an option to use public domain materials, which are generally copyright free. We can also go for the licensing when we are going to attributes the contribution of one person into a work. And we are also, we can use the material which are having the copyright exceptions, maybe under the fair use licenses, or we can get the permission. So all these things are going to save us in probable legal issues at later stage of our research activity. So Creative Commons gives you legal rights. It does not replaces the copyright activity, but it gives you a ability to dictate how the material can be used in a most you can say legal way, so that you will be not trapped into any kind of legality at later stage. So Creative Commons, I think most of you understood that Creative Commons is an American non-profit organization which gives you to overcome the obstacle to the sharing of the knowledge and creativity to address the word processing challenges. So anything which we want to create from the for the online perspective, we have to understood that which material we are going to use and what kind of rights we are having, so that we can use in a most effective way. So Creative Commons licenses is one of the several public copyright license that enables the free distribution of and otherwise copyrighted work. So if any work is strictly copyrighted, you cannot use. Otherwise, the Creative Commons licenses gives you a very clear guidelines how you can effectively use the materials for the purpose of creating content and sharing it on the online platform. So for using Creative Commons licenses, we have to understood what kind of acknowledgement we can give to the contents by there are 4 basic symbols we have to understood. One is BY. It means we have to acknowledge the content wherever you are going to use that. NC is the non-commercial, where you have to use the material for non-commercial activity. ND is no derivative. It means we have to share the content in the work which is permitted to use. You cannot change the content. You cannot modify without the permission. SAE adaptations must be shared under the same terms and conditions. It means whatever the license agreement, whatever the content which is available associated with the particular digital content, you have to share it as the same without changing the rights. So we have to understood that how this Creative Commons traffic light works. There we have below the most bottom part, it says that it is anti-copyright. It means wherever C is crossed, it means this content is completely free, and it is the such kind of content known as public domain contents. And then the by where we have to acknowledge the content by proper citation, by giving the proper credit to the content creator. Then the reverse C, which means that the copyright of the content is expired, and you can change it, you can modify it, and you can reuse these things. And if you see that all these content up to yellow, the green traffic light says that it is you can easily use the content which is available over the internet. The yellow one gives you the signal where you can use carefully, understanding the different kind of modality starting from ND to share alike components, and all these things can be used in a different combination from one option to other option to combining the equation into all these 7 copyright licensing activities. And the most difficult to use is the copyright licenses, which is the red one.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes,
The slides are not moving, sir.
oh, now it is coming.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so maybe slides, so it is a problem. So the C is anything under C is the copyright material. So you cannot use the material which is copyright protected. Then the public domain, which it means that whatever material whose copyright is expired, you can easily use. And all this material is now available in a public domain. So for example, Internet Archive, one of the classic example of the copyright left material where no rights reserved. You can find a lot of resources, images, videos, research paper, books, which are copyright free materials and available in public domain. So you can easily use those materials which are available from Internet Archive. Then attribution CC BY, where you have to strictly give the credit to the creator of the content. Even if you want to create any content and you put a CC BY, it means whoever is going to use your content, he must acknowledge your contribution in that cases. CC BY SA is share alike, means each whatever content is available, you have to share is as such. You cannot make any changes, you cannot modify it. You have to put the same work as such, and also acknowledge the creator of the content. Then CC BY ND, it means the license let you other to reuse your work for any purposes, including commercial activity, but it cannot be shared with the other in the adapted format. So whatever book, suppose if you want to implement any textbook, so you cannot say that it is adapted. You have to put the same content as such. So you cannot modify in case of ND. Then CC NC, it is non-commercial activity. So whatever content available on the internet, it should not be used as a commercial activity. For that, whatever sharing, if you are generating, it must be shared with the shared with the content creator as well. Then CC by NC SA, it means the commercial activities, it cannot be commercial activity. It has to be shared with the same terms and condition which is available with the original content creator. Then CC by NC and ND, it means this license is the most restrictive for the 6 main licenses, only allowing other to download your work and share them with other as long as they credit you. But they cannot change them in any way or use it commercially. So all these parameters gives you the most restrictions where the copyright licenses are associated with. So we have to see that we have to identify what kind of attribution is associated with the content, and then accordingly we have to decide how we are going to use, so that we cannot be trapped into any kind of legal activity. So to summarize a whole picture, you have to see that all the green are freely used. The material which are available over the internet can be freely used. All the yellow part can be used, but with some care. And similarly, the red part say that you cannot use material freely, provided that because they are bound with certain copyright activity. So how you are going to use your digital content on the social media platform or any other activity? So you have to use Creative Commons platform to share your work. Maybe the Flickr, maybe the Wikipedia, YouTube videos, Internet Archive, Wikimedia Commons, PLOS ONE, that is one of the classic example of Creative Commons. There all the contents are now freely available. MIT Open Courseware. So many platform now coming up, and they are promoting the Creative Commons licenses, and those content can be easily used for your developing your digital content and using your content for the purpose of further research and academic activity. Then from where you can find these images or videos from having the CC licenses, you can easily find out from the Creative Commons website as well. And there you can easily identify what are the photographs, what are the pictures, what are the videos, what are the audios, which kind of licenses are associated with those digital content. So that can be easily identified, and that can be used for the further use and reuse of the content. Even Google is also providing the content, and you can easily filter out the images or audios or text or videos based on the usage rights. So once you go and under the more options, you can find out the usage rights, and you can easily identify the Creative Commons licenses or commercial and other license filtering, and thereafter you can decide how these contents can be used for the purpose of creating any further digital content. Then once you identify the content, you can easily find out, you can easily assign licenses. Those license assignment is very easy, and there is a fixed formula, which formula says that title by author is licensed under CC. It means first you have to give the title, then by, and then author who has created this content, and then you can put a term is licensed under CC. CC means which kind of Creative Commons license is applicable to the content. For example, suppose a title is there for Lane Afterglow, then creator is someone is there, and from where you have taken this picture, and then what kind of license is applied. So you can easily use this formula to assign a CC license on your work, and then share it among from Creative Commons platform as well. So once you choose the license, you can we have to say that what kind of activity, whether it is available for commercial license or you can available for modification. All these things options you have to choose, and then it gives you a license which can be shared on your profile or your website or your blog or any other places where do you want to use this content on the internet. So whoever is going to use your content, that will be easily able to identify that this the image which I am, or video or text, whichever I'm going to use in my work, is covered under Creative Commons licenses. So several times Creative Commons come across with different versions. The current version of this CC attribution is CC by 4.0. So we can find out more details of different versions through Creative Commons license available on the Creative Commons website. So what kind of advantage is the Creative Commons is going to give you? The first one is it is going to give you global recognition. So because you are going to share your picture, you are going to share your videos, you are going to process it, upload it on different platform, and all the licenses, if you have carefully chosen, so it's going to give you easy access to other people, and they are going to use your content for their further use. So directly it's going to give you global recognition. Then it is also it help you to easy to understand. So if you provide proper Creative Commons license associated with your content, it very easy to understand what kind of copyright activity is associated with the content. It offers flexibility. It means that if it is protected under copyright, it's very, very difficult to use that material. But if it is covered under Creative Commons licenses, it offers the flexibility in use. The Creative Commons offers a variety of licensing options where you can choose and allow creator to select appropriate license instead of one size fit all terms of use agreement. So it means that you can put either modification, you can put non-commercialization, all kind of Creative Commons licenses can be easily associated with the content, and that can be used by the users. CC supports the culture of sharing. That is most important. Now everyone want to share their content to the global people. But if you protect the content under copyright activity, it's very difficult for us to share it over the platform. So like pre-printing print options is there. Then RDA, research data management options, is now coming up. So where you can share all your data. So this is also promoting a culture of sharing. Further, journal have also started providing options to use different kind of Creative Commons licenses so that the content become easily available to the user of that journal. So once you go to see the legality associated with any journal article, or if you want to use any content, if you want to take any rights to use the content, you can easily identify the content by going through the CC license associated with that, or rights associated with the content for using the content for your future research activity. Journals generally provide right to use options where you have to choose what kind of rights you are going to get the content, so that you can easily use the content for different kind of activities at later stages. As a librarian, we have to make aware about our faculty, what kind of activity we can perform with this Creative Commons license. So I have created one subject guide, and there we have put our Creative Commons, all the aspect of Creative Commons, how this Creative Commons used by different stakeholders in my university. So this effort we have made to educate our students, our faculty, how so that they can understand what kind of copyright, what are the patents, how Creative Commons help them to create any content for their research and activity. So this is what I was trying to share during this short presentations. So thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Sriram. What a presentation, very informative. Now I request Dr. C. So now I think Dr. Gary is with Professor Gary is with us. Can you hear us, Professor Gary? I think you need to unmute
Yes,
yourself.
yes, I can. I was trying to start.
Yeah.
I was trying to
Yeah.
share my PowerPoint slides, and that meant I couldn't click on the microphone. So give me one moment,
So,
and
yeah.
I will.
So we welcome you, Professor Gary, on this platform. It is our honor and privilege to have you on this panel. I request
And
you
thank
to
you.
please start your presentation on open access and institutional context, advances and challenges. Over to you, Professor Gary.
Okay. For some reason, it looks like Google Meet is not going to allow me to share my PowerPoint slides. So
no issue. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I will just go ahead without that. What I want to talk about is sort of the experience here at Florida State University that we have gone through in order to promote and support open access here at the university. I will say right at the beginning that I'm speaking very much from the point of view of a faculty member, although I have worked with librarians extensively on this. For about 12 years, I guess I was on the Faculty Senate's Library Committee, which is a faculty group that works with librarians in order to establish policies for the faculty. It's important to note, I think, from the very, very beginning that these kinds of collaborations between librarians and faculty are extremely important to foster. Faculty and librarians, although we share a common mission in many ways at universities, we also have very different missions, certainly in the United States. We don't always necessarily have the same understanding of what is important, what's not important, how things should be done, etc. The most recent example of this here at Florida State University is the libraries have announced an upcoming weeding of the collection, removing older books that have not been used in a very long time, because there are serious space problems, space challenges in our library that are not completely mitigated by electronic access or access to electronic materials, and there is a certain percentage of the faculty that are deeply opposed to this because they think every book should remain in the library, which of course from the point of view of librarians is an impossibility. So these kinds of collaborations between librarians and faculty are extremely important so that each group can understand the perceptions and values and concerns of the other group. It's also really important to acknowledge right from the beginning that there are extreme differences between faculty members in different kinds of disciplines. For example, in the world of physics and the sciences in general in the United States, there is a long-standing tradition of open access and the development of and use of open access repositories into which researchers place things like preprints of their research. That's something that is very much not, well, true to a much lesser extent in the social sciences, but not very true at all in the arts and the humanities. So different groups have different concerns, different histories with open access, and different levels of experience about open access. So here at Florida State University, about 10 years ago, I would say, we began the process of trying to develop university-wide policy to support open access and the use of open access repositories, and particularly to develop an open access repository here at the university, which we call Digital Commons. And what I want to talk about really quickly here is a little bit of that process, some of the things that we did, some of the challenges that we faced and still continue to face, and some of the things that the library over time has developed in order to support open access repositories here on campus. This was a project of the Faculty Senate Library Committee. It began, I'm no longer on that committee, but it began during my time on that committee. I was for a couple of years the chair of that committee. I'm no longer on that committee, but there has been an ongoing scholarly communication and open access task force, and I continue to be a member of that and active on that task force, even though I'm no longer a member of the Faculty Senate Library Committee. I was on that committee for 12 years. The task force and the libraries are engaged in a number of activities ongoing. One is a continual environmental scan to sort of assess the attitudes and perceptions of the faculty, actually of all stakeholders on campus, the faculty, students, librarians, and administration. Again, all of those groups have very, very different perceptions, very, very different concerns, very different points of view based on how they look at the world and what role they play in the life of the campus. One of the things that FSU has had to address, and we are currently addressing, is change in university administration. We recently changed the president. Our previous president decided to retire after having been president of the university for 7 or 8 years, I guess it was, and so we recently have a new administration, which means that we don't know necessarily to what extent the new administration understands or supports open access. So that's been something else we've had to deal with. With open access, there are all kinds of copyright issues. Many journals, many publications don't necessarily want or support open access because they believe that it interferes with their ability to make a profit by publishing academic journals. Sometimes open access comes with rather extreme fees to authors to publish in open access journals. The library has provided ongoing financial support to faculty who are in that kind of a position. We've also been involved with ongoing transformations in the kinds of technologies that we use and how we can leverage those technologies in order to support the development and ongoing use of open access here. One that I'll mention a little bit later. Well, I'll mention it in passing right now. One of the things we do here at Florida State University is all faculty are required to maintain their curriculum vitae, their CVs, online using a system that was developed here at FSU that we call FEES. And we're trying to leverage some of the capabilities of these in order to be able to support and sustain the use of open access. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. And a number of other kinds of things here. As I said, there are often radical differences across academic disciplines. So one of the things we've had to make sure that we do by bringing information regularly to the Faculty Senate and to the faculty as a whole about the impact of open access on scholarship. Some of the kinds of concerns we've heard from faculty have to do with prestige. In some disciplines, there is at least a perception that open access publications are less prestigious. That's not necessarily the case in the sciences, but it seems to be the case in some of the humanities, for example. There are perceptions that if people publish in open access journals, their work won't be taken seriously. So we've had to address those kinds of concerns through the establishment of policies and such. One of the biggest ones that we had to deal with is the whole issue of promotion and tenure, especially for junior professors. And one of the things I will talk about again briefly is the policy that we had to develop to explicitly say that open access publication and the use of open access should not be considered to be a negative or detrimental to promotion and tenure. So we've had to pay attention to those kinds of disciplinary differences across the sciences, across the social sciences, across the humanities and the arts, because there are very different perceptions across all of those disciplines. There are some very significant economic and legal dimensions having to do with the costs of open access publication and copyright issues. Some publications do not want their materials to be placed in open access repositories. So we've had to take steps to make sure that faculty understand that things like preprints, not the final version of a publication, but a version of a publication that has been accepted but is not yet finalized, can be placed in open access repositories. And we've taken a kind of informal, here at Florida State, we tended to be very informal in certain ways. So we've tried to make this a very kind of personal approach, talking to a lot of individuals, but also very rigorous in terms of paying attention to those kinds of differences and the legal and copyright concerns that people have expressed. One of the roles that librarians in particular have taken a serious and very important role in here is acting as mediators and negotiators between faculty who are conducting research, publishing in academic journals, wanting to place materials into our open access repository, and the journals in which they publish. Our librarians have been extremely good in acting as negotiators to, in cases where journals are reluctant to allow open access materials to allow their publications to be placed in open access repositories. Our librarians, because they do understand these issues much better than faculty do, have been very, very valuable in terms of being negotiators between our faculty, research publishers of academic journals. The library has also set aside a certain amount of their budgetary resources to support faculty's publication efforts in open access journals. Certainly in the sciences, it can be very, very, well, the people in the sciences in the US often have grant funding that allows them a certain amount of money to publish in open access journals. People in other disciplines do not often have that. So the library has set aside a certain amount of their funding in order to be able to support the efforts of faculty in those disciplines to publish in open access journals when there are fees involved. The librarians have also been very, very active, very proactive, I should say, in making it very easy for faculty to place materials in open access, in our open access repository. One of the things that faculty often are very reluctant to do is do anything that takes that they perceive to make demands on their time. Faculty are very, very busy with doing all of the kinds of things that we do: research, teaching, service, to do things like spend a certain amount of time making sure that our materials get placed in the repository. Faculty often tend to be very reluctant to do that because they feel rightly or wrongly that it takes their it takes time away from their other obligations. So the librarians on our campus have been very, very proactive in making it as easy as possible for faculty to do that. And I'll talk about one of the ways that we've done that. One of the biggest challenges we have faced here in Florida, in the state of Florida here in the United States, is well, and it's true actually of every university in the U.S., I think. We do not necessarily, our libraries do not necessarily have the budgets to maintain subscriptions to all of the publications that we would like to include in our library. And certainly in the last couple of years, we have faced a lot of budget cuts. Several years ago, I was over the course of one summer part of a task force, and the name of the task force will tell you precisely what we were doing. It was called the Library Budget Crisis Task Force, and we were faced with the very, very difficult challenge of trying to cut $1 million of acquisitions from our library's acquisitions. And we had to try to figure out how to do that because we had a $1 million shortfall. Then a few years after that, we had the same thing happen all over again. So we've had to do things like the most recent one, our university ended its subscription to Elsevier, which is the biggest for-profit publication publisher in the world. We no longer at Florida State University subscribe actively to Elsevier publications. Now, there's a lot of perception that that's a really, really dreadful thing. And yes, it is a very, very dreadful thing, but we simply could not afford to continue it. The way we have dealt with this is that there has been a lot of activity statewide, not just at one university, but statewide, a lot of collaboration between all of our university and higher education libraries across the state. There are 12 universities here in the state of Florida, and the libraries are all part of a single consortium, statewide consortium. And so what we've done is we've sort of shared the budgetary burden of publishing, of subscribing to these major publications. So one university in our consortium subscribes to Elsevier. Here at Florida State, we do not, but we are able to maintain access to Elsevier publications because this other university does subscribe to Elsevier, and we reciprocate. So we will subscribe to certain publishers that they do not, and so we have a reciprocal agreement that allows us to share resources and share costs back and forth. That's not exactly an open access issue, but it's one of the reasons why open access has become so important. The budgetary costs, the budgetary requirements of maintaining subscriptions to non-open access materials has become really exorbitant, and universities, especially in these times in the US of very serious budgetary challenges, that's been the way we've been able to maintain that. And so it's very closely linked to our efforts to maintain and support open access, because open access does provide a way of working through and working against those kinds of very, very significant economic challenges that we face and will most likely continue to face through the future. So our process of supporting and developing open access really has gone through 3 steps historically. And I just wanted to quickly mention what those 3 steps are, and I will copy and paste this. Since I'm not able to share my slides, I will copy and paste this into the chat so that you can all actually see the wording. This is phase one, or this was phase one. As I said, the Faculty Senate, this was a process that took several years. We did it in small steps because our faculty simply wasn't ready to accept open access as a complete thing all at once. We sort of had to introduce them to what it was and take it in small steps. So this was the first step, the very first policy that was adopted by the Faculty Senate. And all of these were adopted unanimously, I will add. Here's the first one. The Faculty Senate of the Florida State University, consistent with the university's mission to preserve, expand, and disseminate knowledge, and to provide broad access to institutional resources and services, endorses the storage and preservation of scholarly publications in the Florida State University's open access institutional repository. And yes, I will wrap up certainly within 5 minutes. So this was really just a way of saying we endorse the policy, we endorse open access in principle, even if we do not have very specific policies that we use, that we mandate across campus. Phase two was a little bit different. It had to do with the acceptance of open access for promotion and tenure. As I said, there was concern among some faculty that open access would, especially by junior professors, assistant professors, that publishing in open access journals would be damaging to their ability to gain promotions and to get tenure. So the Faculty Senate in the second step adopted a policy that explicitly said it was acceptable. Here's the wording: digitally published scholarship, including articles published in open access journals with review process and acceptance, may be counted in the tenure and promotion process subject to the same criteria as print journals. So we treat open access publications as long as they are peer reviewed and as long as they are rigorous in terms of their quality control, we accept these as on equal footing, as totally on the equal basis as more traditional print-based non-open access publications. So it is no longer a problem here at Florida State to publish in open access journals. The final one, I won't read this whole statement, but just give you the quick summary. The final step, the most recent step, has been to require that faculty, when they publish something, that they are mandated to place a preprint version of their publication, not the final published version, but a preprint in our open access repository. So it is now a mandate. This mandate was accepted unanimously by the Faculty Senate. Every professor, every researcher at Florida State University is subject to this requirement. It is not universally abided by. And I mentioned that there is an attempt now to tie in our open access repository to our online curriculum vitae system. And the idea here is that we are, of course, also required to maintain and update our CVs whenever we publish something. And so any new publication, anything new that we publish should be instantly reflected in our updated CVs. These CVs, according to Florida law, are open access. They are public documents. They are publicly available to anybody. And so what the library is doing is trying to build a system that automatically scans all faculty CVs in order to find when people have published new articles. This then means that the librarians can be proactive instead of requiring faculty to themselves submit something to the repository, the librarians can now go to the faculty and say something like, I understand, or I've seen that you have published this new article in such and such a journal. Could you please, can you send me a preprint of it, and we will place it in the repository. What this does is it means that the faculty no longer have to be concerned with taking time to time that they don't have to do it themselves, because the librarians will proactively do it for them. So that's sort of where we are right now. Well, the next step, actually, as I said, we have a brand new president here at the university, and we are in the process right now of putting together a meeting, trying to put together a meeting that involves librarians, faculty, and the new university president, to make sure that the new president understands and fully supports what we are trying to do with open access. So I'll end it right there. That's what we've been trying to do over the last number of years here at Florida State University.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Gary, for your wonderful and informative presentation, and also sharing your experience in this context. So now I request Dr. Seema Dwivedi, librarian, JNKVB, to take care to start the question answer session. Seema?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Question is for Dr. Pathak, sir. What is open science communication?
Yeah, actually, open science communication, as it's a like as Professor Rao was also mentioning, it's a new trend, and it is widely happening. And as I said, and as we discussed today regarding open access data, big data, data science, communication. So a lot of things are happening. So basically, open science communication is where how we can communicate this whatever literature related to the science is available in open access format. How we can filter it. Being a librarian, it is our duty to classify and disseminate to the right person. So this is all about open science communication. Yes, thank you, Seema.
Thank you, sir. Next question is for Dr. Labiba ma'am. How OER we can relate with Creative Commons? Hello, ma'am. Labiba ma'am.
I think she is left.
I think Dr. Sriram may answer.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Can you repeat question, Seema, to Dr. Sriram?
How OER we can relate with Creative Commons?
There is a strong relation with the. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
So there is a relationship with the open education resources with the Creative Commons licensing. It means that whatever content a person is developing as open education resources, it must be having some kind of licensing rights. That licensing right is related whether it can be freely used or some kind of commercial activity associated. For example, let us take example of there are a lot of company coming up. They are developing their own platform for e-learning system. So you cannot access any content which is available with the commercial company. But if it is OER, it means that you are making the content available. And in case that content is being used in any classroom, you must acknowledge that this content has been taken from a person who has developed the video lecture or whatever PPTs, all these things. So Creative Commons is basically any kind of licenses which is associated with the open educational resources, maybe freely or maybe non-commercial, maybe share alike, whatever the licenses which have been author provided associated with that particular open educational resources.
Let me add, the moment you say open access, use part, there is no doubt, no objection, no complaint. But only when you talk about the reproduction, all these conditions do come up. And the second thing is even any copyright material also, you can use it. And as a reference for educational purposes, you can use it. And if you quote it, as we all know, once you quote it is a research. If you don't quote it, it's a plagiarism. So, yeah, same. Therefore, In the case of open access resources, every resource is usable. You can use without any permission, right? Only the other conditions prevail only when you go for reproduction or modification or whatever you want to do, and then reproduce it in some way.
Yes.
I need to point out that is not. I'm getting an echo here. That's not necessarily true internationally. For example, United States copyright laws. Under United States copyright laws, I cannot reproduce copyrighted material. I cannot reproduce a complete article that has been copyrighted without permission. I must obtain permission if I'm going to use it in class. I can have my students go off and read it themselves, but I cannot reproduce it.
Yeah, agreed, Professor Gary. It is same here also. That's what I'm saying. For education purposes, any open access resource use is not objectionable. Only when you reproduce it and you change it, that the question comes. Similarly, there was a case in India where they went on a Xerox shop, and it is not clear the fair part means how much it is. Is it 10 pages, 20 pages, one chapter? There was no, and specifically under that rule, the court has struck down the complaint and the case filed by the publishers. So therefore, this is one. And second thing I wanted to bring to your notice and to our friends. See, actually, there is, if you buy a book and if you convert it, digitize it, and can we share it to others? Both Europe and American courts, they have said that if you, for the sake of preservation, if you are digitizing it, you can use within your library or to your users, but you cannot give it outsider, right? That is one case. And similarly, I was talking to one of the expert in India. He says we can also apply the same rule in India also, because you are doing it for your own use. You are not exploiting it. You are not making it commercial. So under this law, probably any book going to the under Delivery of Books Act or under the Press and Registration Act, the states can convert them and allow the users the digital copy. I think that is what the changes that are taking place. At any point of time, education purpose, everywhere they use the fair amount, fair part. This fair part is a big question mark. I think it is in India or elsewhere also.
Yes, Seema, any other question?
Okay. One more question, Sir Sriram sir. How Creative Commons are important for librarians to know? How Creative Commons are important for librarians to know?
Yeah, that is very important to educate people. No? So create information literacy to the user, those who are engaged in creating contents. For example, nowadays online courses are becoming a crucial part of our teaching activity. So unless and until we are not knowing about how, like for example, copyright. So if we are not knowing the Indian Copyright Act, it is very difficult for us to educate our teachers or faculty what part and how much content they can use for their teaching activity or lecture notes or PPT slides. So we have to educate them about public domain documents. We have to educate them how they can use the public domain materials, or how they can use copyright materials, how they can use the different images or videos for their lectures. So actually this is very important, and we have to educate them how they can effectively use these Creative Commons licenses associated with different content, so that they should not be fall into a trap at later stage.
Thank you so much, sir. Now this question is for Professor Rao. Sir, how you see the future of open access, and is there any misuse of this concept?
Yeah, that's a right question. If you look into the last 2 decades, there are so many developments have taken place. Now every state, every country is moving forward in some way or other with different schemes, different plans, so that everybody gets the access to the scientific knowledge And that is how the probably next few years, when you look into the examine to the developments like read and publish, then Plan S and what we are talking about O and OS, I think probably as Plan S was guessed, by 2025, majority of the journals are likely to be open access. This is one thing. This is what, so therefore, open access is going to be the future. Now here also, let me also say a couple of comments. No, when Labiba was talking about the open education resources in our country, if you look into NDLI, it is able to give connectivity. It is able to give connectivity to majority of the institutional repositories without any problem. Similarly, the thesis, Infinity is able to give the thesis to the free access. So in India, I think probably we are much more forward in terms of providing access, in spite of the fact that we have so many limitations. This is one area. Second thing, as Professor Gary was talking about the subscription by one university and the subscription, different journal subscription by different university, then the access. This is what actually one of the model where they say talk about the cooperation between the two institutions. Then second is, I think open access also, along with open access, resource sharing is also being promoted. The reason is some of the cases where open access is not there, subscription journals are there, the question of resource sharing do come up. And then also one of the most important thing is in our country or elsewhere, different agencies are giving the APC to the authors. But could it be made a national level, one organization which takes care of APC, paying APC charges on behalf of the scientist or the or faculty? This I think there are a lot of things that are possibly slowly taking place. Now, for example, DBT gives to its scientists to publish an article in and pay APC. But it is not the case with the universities. Most of the universities, they don't pay APC from their funds. So therefore, what is happening slowly, the things are moving. Maybe in next 2-3 years, I feel so that there will be some sort of confederation or consortia where they will be able to start looking for APC payment from the centralized agency. And at the same time, more and more open access resources are coming in. We all know OJS is also there. The story, the newer journals are coming in open access, and newer books. If you look into the DOAB, there are open access textbooks are there. Open access children books are there. There are a lot of things that are happening. So therefore, I'm sure by 2025, I think things are going to be much more clear, and most of the information, knowledge that is generated is going to be freely accessible by 2025. Thank you. Anything else?
Thank
please?
you. Thank you, sir. Next question is for Gary, sir. How Sci-Hub is taken in USA to download articles, as it is pirated site and unethical site also for academic use?
Well, that's a very complicated question. In most cases, I mean, as an authorized member of the Florida State University community, I'm able to download anything that the university subscribes to. There are a number of different models. I can download and use for my own personal use any materials that the university library makes available. If I were not associated with Florida State University, I would not be able to do that. I can assign any of those materials to my students, and they can download those materials. I cannot copy them and make them available myself to the students, but they can download them if they are authorized users. There are a number of different models. One is that subscription model. That you know, where the university library pays sometimes a very large fee to make that possible to those of us who are part of the university committee. There are other models where the university library subscribes to a service, but they don't pay for individual materials. It's not like a subscription. It's like we provide access to these materials. The one that I'm the most familiar with, if one person downloads it, there's no fee involved. But as soon as a second person downloads it to read it, there is a fee, and the university then must purchase the item. the good thing, the nice thing about open access is that it provides a kind of workaround. You know, there are costs involved to develop things like open access repositories, but they are not nearly as extreme as the costs for those kinds of subscription services. I really like the one where there are large numbers of materials available, but there's no cost involved until people start using them. But that's sort of how it is in the US.
Yeah. So, Professor Gary, I have one question related to this. As we know, of course, Sci-Hub, has been weaker now, maybe due to publishers' lobby. But I heard that, European countries, where they have a negotiation with the academic publishers for their respective libraries, even, they negotiate hard for the subscription price. Otherwise, they say, Sci-Hub is there, we'll go and download. So how you see this on the ethical point, and also the same time when some universities having the public money?
The universities that are reliant on public money are in a tough place right now in the US. I'm not as familiar with Europe because there have been, serious budgetary budget cuts actually in many places. The only way that I know of to get the really, really high costs of subscriptions for publishers that are for-profit corporations like Elsevier, the only thing that I'm aware of that has been really successful is not negotiations between one university and the publisher. So, for example, we as Florida State University have been unsuccessful in terms of going to Elsevier and negotiating a lower cost because we're a very small part of their profitability. But if universities group together and all take the same position, that then gives the libraries much more power to negotiate with somebody like Elsevier. So if just one university goes to Elsevier and says you're going to lose our money, Elsevier says, okay, we'll lose your money. But if 40 or 50 or 60 or 150 different universities all say the same thing, all of a sudden Elsevier has a financial incentive to renegotiate contracts. Usually in the US, in my understanding, that takes the form of, well, a standard Elsevier contract, it comes as an entire package. You have to subscribe to everything. What that means is you get certain journals that are really important that get very heavy use, and you get then a lot of journals that nobody uses. Most commonly, what the negotiations have been able to do in terms of reducing the cost of a subscription to Elsevier is through allowing universities to only subscribe to the journals that they actually heavily use and not have to pay for the journals that do not get used. So that's what's been successful here, but it really takes a concerted and coordinated effort by multiple universities rather than just one university trying to negotiate those differences, those changes.
Seema, if you allow, I have one more question for Professor Gary.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
So this is actually, in Indian context, when we renew the subscription, it is purely based on the usage statistics. I think Dr. Sriram can also may add to this. But what happened when we download the usage statistics, there is a lot of articles from the perpetual contents. Like, for example, we have access to, for example, say certain journal of Wiley. Now, when we are renewing, we see the usage statistics. But generally, when we download the usage data, generally, they don't segregate from, number of years. So, like we get, for example, like 5,000 downloads and cost is $50,000. So, we get like cost per article like this. So, so in our case, it is not good for us even when we are taking the usage from the perpetual right content. So how is the situation in your case when you renew in USA universities, when they renew the subscription, journal subscription? How much it is only dependent on this usage data, or any other methodology apart from the embargo period? Like if in case of self-press journals, like we are paying around $19,000, but there is a few people they say embargo period only 6 months time. So why to spend this much amount? straight away, you can drop those publications where embargo period is less, because as you say, financial crisis, it is also in India, and we have been asked to reduce the budget by 25 to 50%.
That's perhaps a more complicated question than you realize. Certainly I can't speak for how it works across the United States, because it's different in every state. Because in the U.S., university systems are managed and operated at the level of the state. That has actually been a real problem for us here at Florida State University, because the subscription costs, we've always had consortia across our library system, across our universities in Florida. And we've always had a certain degree of cost sharing across the consortium libraries. It's been a real problem for us here at Florida State University, because there's not only a subscription agreement with the publisher, but there is a cost sharing agreement across the universities, across the members of the consortium. And that agreement here in Florida is something that was negotiated. I'm trying to remember the date. I believe it was negotiated in the mid-1980s. So 40 years ago, this agreement was negotiated. At the time, Florida State University was the largest university in the state of Florida. So we had the majority of the cost for these subscriptions. Subsequently, there have been a couple of new universities established that were not originally part of the consortium. They are now part of the consortium. They have grown very, very rapidly. So one in particular, one other university, is by far the largest university in the state of Florida, but they don't pay much. They don't pay their fair share of the subscription costs because they were not part of the original consortium agreement. So it's not a direct one-to-one relationship between the cost at a specific university for subscriptions. It also is affected by this very, very out-of-date consortium agreement. And it's been very, very difficult to get the universities to come together to negotiate a new agreement, because of course the new universities that have grown so rapidly don't want to pay more than they pay. So it's been politically a very, very big challenge for Florida State University to come up with ways of changing those cost relationships.
Yeah, can I make a small comment, please? Actually, I wanted to remind all Indian friends, Ashwatthama, Hatha, Hatha, Kunjara, right? Everybody, we all know the rules. When somebody comes, I have seen in the West also, they put big posters saying that, photocopy of a book is illegal. But there are n number of people who stand in the queue and they photocopy the books. Similarly, in India also, yes, legally it is not, but if somebody is copying, we cannot stop. This is one area. And the second is, our consortia have to be planned because the consortia system in the US, they are different, and in our case, it's little different. Concept may be same. And when you look into the Indian context, we have a different number of consortia, which we, as I said earlier, that we don't take care of any of the prices. Then another important thing is most of the libraries these days, they are subscribing for JGate, or you can subscribe for Nimbus as a partner. Then they are also giving all sorts of open access articles at free of cost. This is one of them, because there was a question from somebody asking how about engineering. You get all sorts of open access articles freely accessible. Either you take JGate or you take from Nimbus. And they're also giving a lot of open access, open resources also at free of cost. So there are, if a group of people related to one particular subject, they join together, continuously if they share the information, they will be able to get information about the open resources, OER, open journals, open books, etc. I think that could be the plan of the librarians, and it is not easy. I know everything, we cannot subscribe, everything we don't know a lot of information. Every day newer and newer things are coming in. So librarians have to be on their, they have to be dynamic, and they have to be on their toes, and then only they will be able to provide much better service at stagnant funds. Thank you. And I welcome Dr. Prabhat Pandey, the president of Madhya Pradesh Library Association. Welcome, Prabhat.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this brainstorming session on open access. Thank you.
Yes. Seema, any other question?
No, sir. No, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Seema, for conducting question answer session. Now I'll just conclude the session. So thank you all the honorable speakers for sharing your ideas, your experience with all the participants. I discussed about open access definitions, concept, and types. Then Professor Lakshman Rao has based a theme about how this open access is useful for the librarians and how we can make a use of this. What are the recent trends like open science and all. Labiba has talked about open educational resources and how librarians should put all those resources on library website and also to take orientation classes on regular basis. Dr. Sriram talked about Creative Commons, which is really useful, and he also given few examples like how it is really useful for the librarians point of view also, because nowadays there is no space for a single mistake. In every institute there is ethical committees, they take things very seriously. Even in India, every institute they have ethical committees, and people get lose the jobs also by this plagiarism and similar issues. Then Professor Gary has talked about open access and institutional context. Also, he talked about financial issues, and he shared his experience about open access repositories. And then Dr. Sriram talked about Creative Commons. So we also discussed, in detail, all the speakers discussed about read and publish model, APC issues, copyright issues, financial issues, then open access repositories, role of library and librarians, open access textbooks, various open access, models. Dr. Sriram has talked about Creative Commons licenses in details. Once again, I say it was very informative session, and now I request our honorable president Madhya Pradesh Library Association, Dr. Prabhat Pandey, to give vote of thanks. Prabhat sir, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pathak. First, I would like to thank Professor Lakshman Rao, President Telangana Library Association, as well as ex and legend in LIS in India. So thank you, Professor Lakshman Rao, to guide me to organize jointly with TSLA this open access. We have talked about every aspect of open access. So it's really a brainstorming session. So thank you so much, Professor Lakshman Rao. Then our young library scientist, Dr. Sandeep Pathak, who has always helped technically. So he's defined a concept, definition, and all other things on open access. So thank you, Dr. Pathak. Then Laviva from Yugoslavia, ex-president, Special Library Association Asia. So thank you, Laviva, to share her experience about open access, institutional repository, and all that. And thank you, Dr. Sriram, University Librarian, Sikkim University. He always guide MPLA to organize such type of session. So thank you once again, Dr. Sriram. And thank you, Professor Gary Burnett, to share his experience about open access, implementation in Florida. And I am really very sorry to late joining through technical issue. Professor Gary, we are really very sorry for joining issue. So once again, Thank you so much, Professor Gary, and thank you, Dr. Seema Dubedi, to organize question answer session effectively. It's really an excellent session on open access, and on the occasion of National Library Week. So thank you, our participants who made success this session. So thank you so much. Thank you one and all. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Patel.
Now, before we bind up, I request all the participants to on their video. So we'll have a group photograph, and then I think today there is a final also. So I think they all are looking to join that batch. So I request all the participants to please on your video.